Redshirt senior running back, Roman Hemby. We'll start with Mike and then go to Todd.
And what do you like about Indiana's offense, and what maybe are the kind of key differences between what you did at Maryland?
I really love the offense here. I feel like it's a similar system, pro-style system, spread offense where a lot of people can touch the ball, a lot of people can make plays. I think the biggest thing that's different from here as it was at Maryland is, a lot of players are really gritty. They do things the right way here. A lot of people, they hit the ground running every day, and that's something that inspired me, and I've been really trying to model my game after that since being here.
We'll stay on your left with Todd and then go to Seth.
Going back to when you were in the portal, when did you identify Indiana as the school you wanted to go to? How far into the portal was that? Kind of describe the process of actually coming here.
I was in the portal for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. Pretty much had my head down, and I wanted to work and see what came to me. I had a few opportunities, but when I came on my visit here, I really fell in love with the university. So it was nothing really else that needed to be said, nothing else that needed to be done. It was pretty much a done deal.
We'll go Seth and then Matt.
And you played against Indiana a couple times, obviously. Just what do you remember from those matchups, and when you're kind of looking to pick your new program, I guess, does having that memory of playing in the stadium kind of help you, lead you in this direction?
Oh yeah, I take everything into consideration, and the times that I've played here, the times that I've played Indiana in general, they've been great games, great atmosphere, and the Big Ten, I feel is the best conference. I'm biased, but I feel like it's the best conference, and when you can go out there and show what a running back can do on a stage like this, it helps you a lot. And I knew, getting the opportunity to come here and seeing what happened last year and seeing the success that the whole program had, I knew that if I could somehow submit myself as a player to contribute, I would be doing a good thing, and that's why I made the decision to come here.
How tough a matchup was it to prepare for going against the IU defense this past year?
Oh, it was very tough. I feel like their front was very, very challenging. They had speed and talent on the back end, just a well-rounded defense. And looking at them as a whole, we knew we were going to have trouble with them, but we knew we were going to be able to compete. I feel like it was a good game. They came out on top. And I'm glad that I was able to see it from that angle, to see what it's like playing against them, and it really helps me being on this side.
We'll go second row left to Matt, and we'll go to Zach B.
Going from those those previous games against Indiana and then this past year, I guess how surprising, how much was it talked about in your guys' locker room, how much different the program was from the previous 3 years you played against them, whatever, to 2024?
Oh, it was very different. I would say for my personal self, just approaching the game, I knew that it was going to be tougher. Not saying that it wasn't a tough game in the past, because it's always been a tough game. Any game in the Big Ten is going to be tough. But just seeing the changes that they made and seeing the progression that they had leading up into our game, we knew that it wasn't going to be a cakewalk, and obviously everybody that watched the game knew that it wasn't the case as well. So, really diving into the playbook, diving into the film room, and looking at personnel was like heavy on my mind going into the game, and that's why I was able to have some type of success, but ultimately didn't help my team win the game. So it was a lot of work that needed to be done.
We'll go on your right to Zach B. and then Joe.
I wanted to ask about the Maryland game too. From an atmosphere perspective, when you walked in, was there anything specific you remember that stood out to you when you walked into Memorial Stadium last year? It was kind of the first game of the stretch of runs of sellouts last year for Indiana. Was there anything specific that stood out to you as far as the atmosphere is concerned?
The thing that stood out to me the most, I would say, about the atmosphere as a whole would be the fact that nobody left and it was raining. It was an ugly type of game. The rain was cold. It was coming down sideways, and it was a little chilly. But as the game went on, the fans were still engaged. It was a really good atmosphere, and it was something that I feel like gave IU the edge in the game. We definitely weren't able to create any momentum, because when we had a little slither of hope, it was like it got taken away. So I feel like the atmosphere was something that really jumped out to me, and if you ask anybody that was on the team last year, they'll know that it was a great atmosphere.
We'll stay on your right with Joe, and then go to Nick.
Yeah, what do you think you bring to the table as a pass catcher, along with your ability to get 10 to 15 carries a game?
Oh yeah, I feel like I bring a lot to the table. I feel like that's the same with a lot of the running backs that are in the room. We bring different things to the table, but I feel like we have all the tools to be a well-knit group. I feel like for myself, just the ability to do a little bit of everything kind of helps me. A lot of people look at the next level. Ultimately the NFL is my end goal, and they say who can play on third down, who can be that guy that can be looked at in the time of need, and that's kind of what I try to do. I feel like since being here, I've been able to do better in the run game. I feel like I've always been pretty good in the pass game, catching screens, catching swings, and little check down routes and stuff like that, and just making myself available in pass protection. I want to really fine tune everything so that I can, better suit my team and help myself have success.
Go far right to Nick and then Daniel.
How has your adjustment at IU been so far, and how do you compare it to Maryland?
Yeah, I feel like both programs are really good as far as gelling as a community and wanting to be successful. I feel like in the Big Ten, that's kind of the hard-nosed mentality of all teams. I think the thing that set this team apart was the culture. I feel like from the staff, the coaches, the players, everybody here, they want to see each other succeed. So when I got here, I had other running backs that have been here for a little minute, giving me advice, helping me to get my feet on the ground. And once I picked up the playbook, it was like second nature. I've been playing football since I was 4 years old. So football is still football, but the magnitude changes a little bit. And I'm here for the challenge, and that's that's something that I'm really taking a lot of thought into.
Well, on your left to Daniel and then Mike.
I want to say you mentioned earlier that having played IU helps you now. How does it help you?
I feel like it helps me just because, knowing the personnel that you're going to be around. I was able to watch the offense, some new pieces on the offensive line, new pieces at receiver and things like that. But just seeing how things operate, being able to have an outside lens and still be incorporated to see how things pan out, offense, defense, scheme. Seeing it from the outside and then seeing it from the inside really helped me. And I feel like what a program stands for when you have to face them. So me being on the other side of things and seeing the morals and the standards of this program, the culture that showed up, the close-knit brotherhood, and the way that the coaches believed in their players, I was able to see that from the outside. So when I got to the inside, it was like, okay, everything checks out the way that I thought it would, and it helps me to kind of build credibility with the program and helps me to put my best foot forward every day.
Go far left to Mike.
Yeah, I heard a quote from you last year when you were kind of talking about Maryland, and you personally not maybe reaching sort of expectations you had in the preseason, that you said you were going to learn lessons from that and kind of take that forward. I was curious what those lessons were you learned from kind of not maybe reaching kind of the numbers you had or the goals you had last year.
I feel like the biggest thing for me is just trusting. God has the ultimate say with everything. And sometimes I would get a little antsy, I would get a little in my head because I knew what I was capable of and I wasn't putting it on tape. I wasn't showing up that way on Saturdays. And, everybody had blame in it. I couldn't point the finger at anybody because there was a lot that I needed to do. So, when the season ended and I got into the weight room, I got into the film room, I looked at myself first. What can I do better? And it started with just my mentality, how I go about things, being able to read faster, because at this level, holes open and close really fast. And I was able to see that sometimes I was frustrated at other things that were external. Sometimes it's internal, and I was able to kind of reflect on that, build myself back up as a person, build my relationship with God a little bit stronger. And, he gave me this opportunity, and I'm here to, really flourish as much as I can.
Thanks, Roman. Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.